For a while now, athletes have shown who they are outside of their on-the-field sport. So I'm lucky enough to have in studio New York City native, Harlem Globetrotter ambassador, and mixed media artist, Maxwell Pearce. What's going on, man? You guys just finished up a whole stop at home.
We did.
You get some home cooking? I know you had to go up to mama and grandma's house.
My sister, my grandmother, everybody in the family. It's always good to be home.
What was that ticket situation like? Because I know everybody from around the way was like, hey, I've known you since you was dunking on the little playgrounds and stuff like that. What was that ticket situation like?
Yeah, it's always the most chaotic ticket-wise when all of the players play in their home city. But New York City gets a little different because it's New York. I don't think there's any city like New York.
And you got to play in the Garden.
My rookie year, was the first time I got to play in the Garden.
If you could talk to young Max and be like, one day you are going to be playing in the most iconic arena in the world, would you believe that?
No way.
Yeah.
Young Max was way too shy to even raise his hand in class to answer a question in front of the kids that he knew.
Wow.
He was too shy to, speak on camera, to speak to schools. So for that to turn around, through my journey as an athlete, but also through the Globetrotters in particular, I'm really, really grateful for that.
So let's talk about the journey, man. Let's combine them, because I love the more than an athlete type stories.
Right.
I love the ones who fought back when they told us to shut up and dribble. I mean, basketball-wise, kind of take us through how you got to the Globetrotters, and then we'll talk about how the art and your love for speaking out against social injustices through the art. We'll talk about that right after. So how'd that journey start on the court?
So I went to a really small middle school. My graduating class was 14 kids, I think, in the 8th grade.
That's right.
The name of the school is called Chapel School, so I want to make sure they get their shout out.
Yep.
But it was like a participation style, in the sense that everybody gets like a participation award, which is very different than AAU basketball, where it's ultra competitive. Only the winners are getting awarded anything or recognized. So to go from that, being a really small kid that was shorter, weaker, probably faster, just because I was low to the ground, but I was always smaller, shorter, and weaker than everybody else on the court. And for a long time, that really frustrated me. But one of the things that I developed was a passion to want to dunk the basketball.
Okay.
So that kind of always stuck with me through my journey from middle school into high school. Once I got to high school, I played at Iona Prep for 3 years. Okay. My teammates were Ty Jerome, who now plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Matt Ryan, who plays for the Knicks right now.
Okay.
Then I started getting into AAU a little bit, and that's when I felt my game start to blossom a little bit more, and I kind of realized that I could use my size to my advantage. And then I transferred to Tuckahoe High School, which is where I'm from. I'm from Tuckahoe, New York. And so I only played at Tuckahoe for 1 year, lost in the championship, but that's where I started to gain some college, interest and recognition. From there, went to Fredonia State, which was my freshman year of college in upstate New York, and transferred to Purchase College immediately after that year. So I went to 4 schools in 4 consecutive years.
Talk about hitting the portal.
Iona, went to Iona, transferred to Tuckahoe, graduated high school, went to Fredonia, then transferred to Purchase immediately. So it was a really, really weird feeling of not being able to settle in somewhere. That 4-year span was tough. And for a while, I didn't really know how much longer I was going to be able to hold on to basketball. So I get to Purchase, and this is when I start discovering my athletic ability. And so I remember one day at the park in Tuckahoe, my friends, we all just finished playing pickup, and we were all trying to dunk on each other. And I dunked on one of my best friends, and it went super viral to the point where it was featured on Ridiculousness. Kobe ended up reacting to that video. Just all of this kind of social media avalanche that kind of introduced me to this world of social media. So that was kind of what reignited my passion for really using my creativity within the game. And then I got to the college dunk contest my senior year at Purchase, and that is how I got to the Globetrotters.
Okay.
So that's kind of my basketball journey in a nutshell.
It was crazy, and like we were kind of talking a little bit off camera before this. He was asking me how old I am. I'm like 40. He couldn't believe it. But back then we couldn't. And I'm dang. Am I that old where I'm saying back then right now? but back then, if I posted something on social media, I got in trouble with the Miami Dolphins when I was down there. It was something that was looked at as where it's like, oh, no, you're not a football guy. Oh, you're distracted. You're not a team guy. Now, like Shedeur Sanders has a complete entourage around him when it comes to social media, building the brand. So how has social media, you know, it helped the basketball career get you with the Globetrotters? How has it helped you kind of put your name out there with the Globetrotters and get you into kind of expressing yourself off the court when it comes to your artwork?
It's helped me tremendously. Like, social media has quite literally allowed me to open doors in rooms that I have never physically been in. I've gotten a chance to have an impression on people in all parts of the world without having to ever travel there. You know, I've gotten a chance to interact with people that I looked up to and kind of get on their radar. But it's also a chance for me to share important messages that really need to be talked about and have attention drawn to. It's something that I was able to use to my advantage. But kind of similar to you, when I was in college, NIL wasn't a thing yet. And so I got suspended for being on a flyer for a dunk contest for charity, and the proceeds were going to cancer. But I got suspended for being on my name being on the flyer. And so to go from there to seeing college athletes to finally, you know, getting paid somewhat for you know, their image and their likeness and the revenue that they bring to their schools, I'm happy to see that progress.
On the flip side, you think it's hurting the recruiting process? Because there's that viral video of Rick Pitino talking about how he doesn't recruit high school guys anymore, but he was able to turn St. John's around to now a top 10 team through the portal. So where do we go with it now? Because you used it to your advantage, but at the same time, there's kids who's going to miss out on getting recruited by some of their favorite schools. So where's that balance?
Yeah, I think right now we're in this transitional period where coaches are going to have to get with the program too. Like, we have a lot of coaches that have been in the game for 30, 40 years. And so, you know, no shade to the coaches, but they're kind of stuck in their ways. You know, they're stuck in the late 90s, the early 2000s, even the 2010s. But we're in a new age now where the players have a lot more power, and power that they should have had from the start. And so coaches are going to have to learn how to deal with that.
Yeah, it's almost like a partnership, almost, because you got a coach that's making, let's say, about $1 million, $2 million a year, but then you also have a star player on that team that's making close to $1 million a year. So it's like, oh, coach, you just got that new Tahoe? I just got one too, baby. I'll make sure I'm not late at practice because we got the same car now. You said something that just hit me, and you were like, the players have the power now. Players have a voice now more than ever. You've been able to use your voice when it comes to your artwork. Why is your artwork so powerful? Why is your voice so powerful with your artwork, and how did that all get started?
Yeah. So growing up, I played 5 total sports. I started with tennis. I was awful. My parents gave me a basketball, loved basketball, kept that with me. Then I played football. I was a left guard, believe it or not. Then I played baseball. I enjoyed baseball a little bit, and then I ran cross country. Cross country was pretty good, but I didn't love running enough to stick with it.
I'm not a treadmill guy either.
But throughout all of those sports, there was one constant, and it was the stigma that black athletes in particular are one-dimensional, and we're not capable of doing anything else. So, you know, this like, stick to your sport, you're only good for putting the ball in the basket or scoring a touchdown kind of mentality that people were placing on me was always frustrating, and that always stuck with me. So at the same time, art kind of came into my life in like the 3rd grade. So as I'm growing, I'm developing both of these passions simultaneously. And so once I finally got to the end of my school athletic career, I had a lot more time to put back into my art. And I had one particular experience with my time globetrotting where it pretty much changed my outlook permanently on how I was going to use my art. So in 2020, I was doing a live TV interview in Birmingham, and essentially these news anchors started throwing fruit at me on this live segment, one of which was a banana, and there's a long history of throwing bananas at black athletes, the racial implications behind it. So I spoke out about the experience, got a ton of backlash from people, which I didn't understand, people telling me to shut up and dribble, and that was the nail in the coffin for me to be like, okay, I'm gonna use my art to bring awareness to issues of social and racial injustice, to remind people that there's a human under the jersey, that, you know, athletes, we are total people, and we do more than just put the ball in the basket.
For you, when you look back at that moment and you get and you begin to create your art, because I know you used like older sports equipment to do that, and we'll kind of get into that. When you go, the motivation process, is it through vengeance? Is it through creativity? Like, what's going through your head and your heart at that time when you're creating these pieces?
That's a good question. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. My first collection was a lot more vengeance filled because it was immediately after people were telling me they were going to kill me when I came to Birmingham and stuff like that. But a lot of it also comes from my creativity, in the sense that, like, I know I've always been a creative person, and it was an opportunity for me to merge my two passions and my identity as an athlete, but somebody who's also more than an athlete. And so with the art, it's a way for me to communicate to people when they look at my work that this was created by an athlete, and yes, we are multidimensional.
A lot of, to go back into it, you used sports equipment. Like, how did that process, where you had a goodwill and was like, hey, this look great as a Jackie Robinson?
Not really. So I, again, like, grew up playing a bunch of sports, and I've been fortunate enough to grow up in the same house, or live in the same house that I grew up in for the first 26 years of my life. So a lot of the old sports equipment that I had, they just kind of stuck around the house. So once I finally got into that mode of, I'm not gonna draw and paint anymore and I'm gonna use sports equipment, I had like a house full of stuff that I could use. I had my old baseball gloves, old football cleats, everything that you could think of. And so one of the things that I thought would be cool as a signature of mine for my work is to include real parts of my journey as an athlete in my work. So like I literally took off the rim of the hoop in my backyard that I learned how to dunk on, and I included it in a piece that's now in a museum in Pittsburgh.
Would you say that's your favorite piece, in a sense? Like, what piece of used equipment did you use to, if you had to run inside a museum to save only one piece of your artwork, which would that be?
Oh man, I don't think I've ever been asked that. That one will probably be up there. The one with the rim on it, because like, when I tell you, I would put a mini trampoline in front of this hoop and pull up Nate Robinson and Vince Carter on YouTube and try to imitate every dunk off of this mini trampoline on a 6-foot basket. So, you know, I really only had to jump like this high, but I couldn't jump at the time, but I was like determined to emulate some of that stuff in some kind of way.
You knew where you wanted to take it.
You
knew where you wanted to go with it. When we're talking about how we use, to me, it's three things that bring us together: sports, music, food.
Yeah.
You've got a Black excellence theme with a lot of your creativity and with your artwork. What would you say to someone who looks at that and say, well, hey, this is divisive? Because there are white athletes out there who partnered and stood with Black athletes. What would you say to that audience of people who come at you?
So it's pretty simple. You know, a lot of the history of this country which has been documented, is about efforts to reduce and omit Black history. And so it's really important to remind people that so much of this country has been built off of, Black labor and Black excellence. And so I know where I come from. My grandmother has been an extremely influential person within my life. And she was the first person to buy me a Harlem Globetrotter jersey when I was 9. She was the first Black model for Pepsi, Clairol. And, she's in so many ways really kind of saved my life. And I'll tell you one quick story. It's an amazing story. So she did some modeling in the 50s. And after she had her first daughter, she retired from modeling and went into education. Wow. She became the director for the American Federation of Teachers for 20 years after she already taught for 20 years. One day she went to the doctor, and the doctor told her that her ovaries needed to be removed because they were bad. But this is at a time where sterilization of Black women was rampant, so we don't really know how true that diagnosis was. Yeah. But anyway, she got on the schedule for the removal, and 2 days before the procedure, Ebony magazine called and asked if she would come out of retirement to shoot this new cover for hats. So she skipped the procedure for the ovary removal, shot that cover for the hats, and shortly after got pregnant with my mom. Wow. So that Ebony cover quite literally saved my life, as well as my grandmother's decision to skip that procedure is ultimately what saved my life, because it saved my mom's life. So, it's things like that, and it's, if she wasn't who she was, for Ebony to want to feature her for that cover at that time, I would not be here. I would not, none of this would happen. So I'm always reminded of that history, and I think it's important to honor and recognize that kind of history.
We all kind of have to take a step back sometimes, because we all get caught up in so much with the sports, or whether it's the activism or the artists or our talents outside the sports. We sometimes got to sit back and really look at what's our why. And you have a strong why, and you can see why you're so passionate when it comes to your creativity. As an athlete, as an artist, as an activist, what's next for Maxwell Pearce?
Art will be my long-term thing. I can't run and jump forever. I don't think anybody, even LeBron can't.
Even LeBron can't do it.
But I'm going to stick with the Globetrotters as long as I can, because I thoroughly enjoy being a part of this team. And it provides a way for me to have an impact through basketball. But even when I can't run and jump forever, basketball will always be a part of me, whether that's just something that I watch, my younger brother play, or my kids play, or in my art. So art will always be constant, no matter what.
Last but not least, what's next for the Globetrotters, for you and these guys? Now that you're done with the New York tour, what's next for you?
So I think we'll be in Jersey this week. I don't have the exact dates for those. But we have another, third of the season that we're really looking forward to. So I'm excited, and then we'll be going overseas a little bit. So I'm looking forward to that. And then next year is our 100th year, which is like going to be a huge deal, because we're one of the oldest sports franchises in the world. So we're really going to do it up for that. So I'm excited.
All right, man. Well, I love what you're doing on the field or on the court. Love what you're doing off the court. Anytime you're back in New York, man, come on, stop by the studio,
man. Thank you, man.
Keep
I appreciate it, bro.
Congratulations with everything.
Thanks, bro.